What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video, and in this one, I'm going to be talking about the one and only Tesla stock, what you should be looking out for the future. I'm also going to break down the deliveries for you guys, show you guys lots of data, lots of charts about what happened with Tesla's latest deliveries report, what this means for the overall year, and why Tesla is still doing very well, in my opinion, despite all of the external factors that are kind of slowing them down. And before I break anything down about all this data, before I talk about how this may affect the share price for the future, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner. Don't take any of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. And not only benefits me, it benefits the entire Tesla community as a whole. And the last thing is, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link down below in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you're guaranteed up to 12 free stocks, each worth up to $2,000. The best part is any of these 12 free stocks could be a free Tesla share. It's a limited time offer that ends in just 2 weeks. Check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. So looking at Tesla's share price right over here, we can notice something very interesting. Tesla's down 8.61% for the day. It basically crashed. However, I don't really think that this crash is doing Tesla justice. So let me show you exactly why. When we zoom out, you will notice that this whole thing looks like a distribution pattern. And we did actually see Tesla gap down. I thought Tesla would at least hold like 250 for a day like this. We ended up going way lower, way lower. And my view was a little bit different from Wall Street's. So Wall Street had these like super high expectations for Q3 for Tesla. And Tesla actually, they didn't meet those expectations, but they did break their record. So when you actually see the graphs and the numbers that I'm going to show you, it's going to make a lot more sense. And I'm going to show you why I'm not necessarily sad about this. I'm still very excited because when you see what Tesla's actually working on, it's going to make so much more sense. So, anyways, looking at Tesla, we do have potential for a little bit more downside, in my opinion, because when we see these like massive, super bearish looking candles, we tend to see a little bit of downside before we get a clear bounce. So far, Tesla hasn't shown signs of the bounce yet, but once we get that bounce, we could actually push up and start to fill this gap. We're not showing confirmation of it just yet, like I mentioned. Some very key zones would be Tesla coming down to maybe like 240. I want to see this thing hold 240. If not, then 235, 229, and then 225 are all very possible. Remember those numbers. Now, if we do get a break to the upside, I want to see this thing actually push over the next couple of days above that 250 zone. If we get a big push above 250, it's very possible Tesla could push past resistance at 255. Break past that, if we start retesting that 259 to 260, then it's very likely we're going to fill the gap and Tesla's going to get a big break. So far, I'm not really seeing that. So this is what the share price looks like. I mean, just absolute dump today, just gapped all the way down, came all the way down here, and we're trying to hold 240. Now, one good thing about the markets, though, that I really want to actually talk about is the fact that we could notice something. That's the fact that the SPY is actually up about 2.64%. It is pushing up a bit and it wants to go for this gap fill. So we could actually see some more upside for SPY in the overall market, at least slightly. The QQQ is also kind of up. It has potential to fill this gap, but we're actually not showing as much strength as SPY just yet. If we do get a nice break above this like 275 level, it's very possible. For the NASDAQ, all right, the NASDAQ, very important. It's very similar to the QQQ. They're actually almost identical in a lot of ways. Not exactly, but very similar. And what you'll notice is the NASDAQ is showing some nice volume. It's pushing up pretty hard. If we get a clean break above that, let me see that. 10,884 level around this range, a clean break approaching like 11,000, that's going to be a very good sign. A lot of tech stocks could start to reverse. Could Tesla reverse tomorrow? Sure. But before we see the reversal, we have to get confirmation. And I do believe we do have some more potential upside for the markets, at least temporarily, that could actually help Tesla reverse when the time is right. Until then, we have to watch these key zones. Now, I don't want to go into too much detail about the share price today. I want to actually focus more on deliveries because we have some very important things to discuss. Firstly, they actually did very well in a way because their EV deliveries jumped 42%. Not bad, guys. However, they did miss on some very bullish expectations. If we look at what all these articles are saying, oh, they missed, they did this and that. Well, the thing is, Wall Street was expecting 350 to 370,000 deliveries. Tesla got 343,000, so a little bit short of that. However, compared to historical data, Tesla is still doing extremely well because this is a new record for them. On their official page, we can see the numbers right here. 343,000 deliveries, 325,000 of them came from the Models 3 slash Y, and 18,000 from the Model S slash X. So once again, the Model 3 and Ys are very, very popular. They're doing pretty well there. But now we're getting very close to the start of Q4. In fact, we're already here. With Q4 coming, demand tends to actually go up and Tesla tends to have strong quarters. Let's see how it really goes and what the data is showing us. So one thing that's kind of scaring some investors right now is what's happening in China. Demand is actually slowing down in China, given everything going on from the real estate sector to lost in trust in the banks. So more investors are now worried, what is Tesla going to do about this? And this is why the next earnings report in the next couple of weeks is going to be very, very telling for Tesla's future, because there's a possibility that even though they are increasing the capacity of their Shanghai plant, they do expect it to actually keep production at least 93% capacity through the end of the year. Now, there are some concerns about the lockdowns, but so far it hasn't really affected deliveries for the quarter, at least so far. So I'm hoping that we don't really see that escalate as the months go on. However, I want to see how Tesla really responds to this, because changes to their margins could allow them to actually deliver more cars in different countries, even if they are being produced in China. I still want to see how that goes, but when it comes to production and deliveries, I'm still pretty confident they're going to do well. This is the chart of all their quarterly deliveries over the last couple of years. We could see this exponential growth right over here, just very, very strong. In the first quarter, that was actually pretty bad. It would have been like Q2 of this year due to the lockdowns, not necessarily Tesla's fault. There was also supply chain constraints that really slowed them down. However, we are seeing them really prevail despite that, and we had a pretty strong quarter overall. This is the all-time record, which is once again why I'm still optimistic because of this. I still think they did pretty well. Now, another big thing that's worth mentioning is the fact that for the year 2021, for the entire year, Tesla delivered 936,000 cars. All right, keep that number in your mind, 936,000. For the year so far, we are at, for 2022, 908,000. So we're very close to how much we did for the entire 2021 already, which really shows how much they're growing. So now let's break down some more specific details about this. So you guys could see they already produced more than 3.2 million all electric cars for their all time numbers. That's about 1.2 million in the last 12 months, which is also going to be including the last quarter of last year. Pretty good numbers from there. Now, we have a lot of data to actually look at right over here. The overall electric car production was up about 54% year over year, which is absolutely incredible. The best result of all time for Tesla. Now, Wall Street will have these like super high expectations for deliveries. I understand their ambitions and why they try to push these super high expectations on Tesla. It's just that I don't really think that Tesla was deserving of simply crashing because of this. Maybe it was set for some potential downside, but almost like a 9% drop in one day. I mean, that's kind of, it's a little bit too hard in my opinion. I mean, that's just my honest opinion. But the main thing to take away from that is the deliveries report was not bad. Even if it missed expectations a bit, it was not bad whatsoever. When you look at the data, the Model 3 and Y were very popular. We could see going over year change, the Model S and X production are up 123%, 51% up for the 3 and Y, and the deliveries are still very, very high to the upside for the S and X, very popular. Going down into more data, you guys can actually see the quarterly numbers right here. Each of the colors represents a different year. The dark blue would be 2021. The red right here would be 2022. So Q1, huge increase in 2022. Very strong move by Tesla. For Q2, yet another increase, but it was actually still a relatively weak quarter because of the lockdowns. And then for Q3, another big increase. So this is very telling and kind of like implying that we could get a big increase for Q4, hopefully. Now, with that said, you also have to note that for 2021, if you look at the dark blue rectangles, look at the big difference right here in 2021 Q4 compared to Q3. So we could see demand really start to go up during that time. lots of deliveries tend to happen. So as Q4 is here, I wouldn't be surprised if Tesla breaks the 343,000 record again for the quarter. It's very possible, but it is dependent on many external circumstances, such as supply chains and also what's happening in China and how demand is really going to be redistributed for these cars. So I'm hoping that we could get another very strong quarter. And if we do, that would be very good for the overall share price because you would see that the growth is still continuing. And then going into future years, they're getting more and more used to producing more of these cars. Once again, very bullish news for the long term. Now, looking at everything right here, we could actually see once again the models are still doing very well. We could also notice that we have the potential for another uptrend right here. You guys can see there's an uptrend, and that's once again looking pretty good. Now we could break down all the specific cars. That's basically the same data, and we could see right here the S and X are approaching 600,000. I think that's cars produced, while the 3 and Y are above 2.6 million. So super popular, very, very nice growth right there. The 3 and Y are continuing to get even more popular. Once again, exponential growth is what these customers want, what investors want. So the total production for Q3 was 365,000, up 54%. Once again, well done, Tesla. That's still very impressive despite everything going on in the world. Year to date, we're at 929,000 cars produced. Now, going back to last year, I must remind everyone that I believe it was Q4 when this actually came out, looking at production, we were at 930,000 for all of 2021. So in all of 2021, we produced 930,000 cars. For this year, once this actually loads, for this year, you could actually see we produced 929,000, and we still have 3 months left for the year, so they're doing very well overall, and they do have the potential to meet their goals, in my opinion. So for Tesla to meet their like 50% growth year over year, they would have to produce about or like more than 50% of the cars they normally produce during that time frame. And what this means is for 2021, in order for them to actually produce that 50% growth year over year, Tesla needs to produce at least, I would say, close to 400,000 cars for the last quarter. Could Tesla do that? Sure, it's very, very possible. Do I think it's very likely? I mean, sure it is, but it's going to depend on these lockdowns, what really happens in China. If they could really see the same demand and really start to deliver more of these cars overseas, which is what a lot of people are wondering. So as far as more data goes, like down here, the Model 3 and Y are very popular, obviously, and looking down, it's just the same data. So overall, guys, pretty decent quarter overall. But I want to see a very strong Q4 for investors because it's not just good for the short term. It's good for the long term. That's what really, really matters. So going back to Weeble on this side over here, Tesla did actually get a big gap to the downside. It is continuing to just shop here and there. A little bit green in the after hours. I am anticipating a big bounce relatively soon. I just can't confirm when it's going to happen, whether it's like tomorrow or the day after. But like I said, the best thing to do is watch key levels. Once you know where this thing could actually go to, it becomes much easier for you to actually play the charts and understand what's about to happen. So if you look at Tesla, all right, if this thing is trying to hold 240, if Tesla does not pop with the overall market, we could see a little bit more downside. So it is possible to see this thing retest like 235, then maybe like 229. That would be kind of extreme for us to drop that much in such a short period of time. So I'd be watching that like 240 to that 235 zone and hope for a nice bounce right over there. If we bounce off like 235 to maybe like 240, then we could push up. 240 would be resistance. We could actually break past that. It's not going to be very strong resistance. Then after that, we have to break past that 246 to 247 zone, which I think Tesla could come close to. After that comes 250, and that's where resistance is going to become stronger. If we get a nice break out of like 250, if we push above 250 and start to hold that, that's going to be a nice sign of strength for Tesla, and we will have the potential, in my opinion, to start filling this gap to the upside. So that's what we really have to watch for if we do get that bounce. because the overall market is starting to push up, it's very possible for us to actually get a bounce. It's very, very likely we might see a small one thanks to what's happening with NASDAQ. They're starting to show some strength, but we have to really watch for confirmation before making that claim. As far as data goes, let me just pull up our momentum indicators, our EMAs, the RSI, and things like that. I could tell you some very important things, and that is the fact that uh, right now, Tesla's pretty oversold. So I'm still going to wait for that bounce. And we are getting closer to it as the days go on. Let me hide my, give me one second. Let me hide my lines real quick. So what I'm seeing is on the daily, all right, Tesla's looking like this. Super oversold on the RSI. It's losing a lot of momentum right here. It lost tons of momentum from that like initial push to the upside. MACD is still wide open. So there's not confirmation of a bounce yet, which is why I mentioned some downside is still very possible. I'm going to watch for that bounce. Hopefully, it's at like 235 to 240. If not, this thing could continue to see more potential downside from here. But because we're oversold, like I said, a bounce is still very possible once the time is right. We just don't see it yet. We still see that 1348 EMA cross on the daily. We're below the 200 EMA. It still looks like it's a little bit bearish, guys. So I am anticipating some more downside before another like nice bounce comes, but we'll have to just wait and see how that really goes. Once again, let me just go over the key levels on the 5 minute. If Tesla breaks below 240, watch 235. If 235 doesn't hold, 229, 225, and then 220 are all very possible. I'm looking particularly right here, this zone right here, between 240 and 235. I'm hoping we can get a bounce somewhere around here and we start to actually consolidate around this range. And if we do get a nice bounce, I'm going to be watching that 246, 247 level. And this is where Tesla could see some resistance, try to hold it back, get a break above 247, 250 is going to be another resistance zone. Break 250, then we have the gap all the way up here. That's going to become a lot more likely to get filled pretty quickly. And Tesla could actually see some volume come in a nice push from the bulls. Once we get confirmation of the bounce, that's when I'm going to like really see what's going to happen. We'll have to wait and see how it goes until then. With that said, guys, watch your zones very carefully, get ready for tomorrow, and please be mindful of a potential bounce when the time is right. Thank you for listening. Have a great day. I hope it brought some value into your guys' lives when talking about these deliveries, and I will see you guys in the next one. Tesla to the moon because the long-term future is bright, and peace out.